Hi. In this video, I will walk you through the simple steps to backup Microsoft Hyper-V VMs in NAKIVO Backup and Replication. Before you start, you should add your Hyper-V host or Hyper-V cluster to the solution inventory and create a backup repository. Check out the video that appears at the top of the screen for how to discover your Hyper-V environment in NAKIVO Backup and Replication. Once everything is set, you can proceed to protect your Hyper-V VMs with a backup job. To create a backup job, go to Data Protection, click Create, then click Backup for Microsoft Hyper-V. This opens the new Backup Job wizard for Microsoft Hyper-V with 4 simple steps to complete. The first step takes you to the source page. On this page, you can find the Hyper-V VMs you want to add to the backup job. In the left pane, which defaults to the host and clusters view, select the VMs you want to back up. When you choose to back up an entire Hyper-V host, any newly added or removed virtual machines will automatically be included or excluded from the backup job accordingly. If needed, you can rearrange the backup priority of VMs by dragging and dropping them in the right pane. To create a backup job that meets certain criteria, switch to the Policy view. In this view, you can create backup job policies and manage them using conditions. Conditions such as search by, search parameter, and search criteria can be applied to policy rules. Search by rule allows choosing a VM name, VM location, VM path, name of VM network, size of VM, amount of VM RAM, number of VM processors, VM power state, and IP address. For example, you can create a backup policy allowing you to back up all VMs containing workshop in their names, located on a specific host, and that are in a powered-on state. You can also map new VMs to matching backups to allow the product to map new workloads that are added to the job as compliant to the configured policy rules, to matching backups within the specified destination. Then, click Next. At the destination page, select Backup Repository, where the backups for the selected VMs will be stored. Under Advanced Options, you can choose a backup repository for each item individually. You can also exclude VM disks from the backup and map source VMs to existing backups to avoid running full VM backups again. Once everything is set, click Next. On the Schedule page, you can manage scheduled job execution. If you want to run backup jobs manually each time, select the Do Not Schedule, Run on Demand checkbox. Alternatively, set up a flexible schedule for job execution. To do this, choose among the frequency options in the schedule type drop-down list, weekly, monthly, yearly, or periodically. Alternatively, choose to chain jobs with run after another job. In this use case example, let's create daily backups for a VM starting at 5 a.m. and ending at 9 a.m. on workdays. For weekends, let's set the start time at 9 a.m. with no end time indicated. To manage scheduled job execution for another VM, click Add Another Schedule and change the settings based on your preferences. To review your jobs in the Calendar view, click Show Calendar. In the calendar, you can see the completion times of past jobs and the predicted duration of future jobs. The graphical representation of your job schedule lets you easily find open time slots for new jobs. When your schedule is set, move to the next step. Let's click Next to go to the Options page of the wizard. Here, you can modify the job name and set job priority levels, with 1 being the highest. When the App Aware mode is enabled, NAKIVO Backup and Replication will trigger the volume shadow copy service inside the guest operating system of source virtual machines prior to taking a VM snapshot. The VSS service will instruct VSS aware applications and databases to flush data from memory to disk and save data in a consistent state. Thus, the VM snapshot taken after triggering the VSS service will contain consistent data. You are offered 2 options for enabling App Aware mode. When enabled, Fail on Error is selected. The solution fails the backup job if the App Aware mode fails. When enabled, Proceed on Error is selected. The solution proceeds with the backup even if the App Aware mode fails. The settings next to App Aware mode allow you to indicate which VM must be used with application aware backups. Change tracking is set by default to use Hyper-V RCT. Using native Hyper-V change tracking enables the fastest incremental backup. When you switch to the Use Proprietary Method option, NAKIVO Backup and Replication reads all of the content of all VM disks to determine which data has changed since the last job run. Finally, when No Change Tracking, Always Full option is selected, NAKIVO Backup and Replication performs a full VM backup of all source VMs. You can enable network acceleration to compress and reduce traffic between the sites and speed of data transfer. Select this option if you plan to back up over WAN or slow LAN network connections. You can use backup encryption to protect your backup data against breaches and leaks. Using encryption requires setting a password. By enabling VM verification, you can check the integrity of your Hyper-V backups. For this to happen, NAKIVO Backup and Replication creates a new empty VM with networking disabled on a specified Hyper-V host and mounts the VM disks on it directly from the backup repository as an IC target. When you select Screenshot Verification as a method of VM verification, the solution powers on the VM after the time specified in the settings and takes a screenshot of the user interface of its operating system. When boot verification is selected, the solution verifies that the system start is successful. Let's enable screenshot verification for this example. To do this, select the target container for the VM boot and increase the recovery time objective. Other settings can be left unchanged. With exclude swap files and partitions enabled, the NAKIVO solution automatically skips swap files and partitions during the backup process, which results in faster and smaller backups. With skip unused blocks option enabled, NAKIVO Backup and Replication automatically skips unused disk blocks in blocks occupied by deleted files during the processing of source objects running on the NTFS file system. This feature allows you to reduce backup storage space usage and processing times. If the type of backup repository that you have selected on the destination page of the wizard is set to incremental with full backups, you can specify the frequency of full backups and the way they are created. When synthetic full is selected as the full backup mode, NAKIVO Backup and Replication first runs an incremental backup and then uses the available recovery points in the backup repository to create a new full recovery point. When active full is selected, NAKIVO Backup and Replication reads all VM data from the source and transfers it to the backup repository. To send email notifications on job completion status, specify one or more email addresses in the Send Job Run Reports to text box. To set up Microsoft Exchange and Microsoft SQL Server log truncation, select the checkboxes next to the VMs running Microsoft Exchange or SQL Server and then select the credentials next to each VM. With file system indexing, an index of files and folders will be created during backup. This will allow searching for files and folders inside the VM backup. NAKIVO Backup and Replication allows you to run a pre- or post-job script. To this end, select the corresponding checkbox and specify the script path on the machine on which the director is installed. Then, set the job behavior in error handling settings. To limit the maximum number of transporter tasks used by the job, select the checkbox next to the Limit Transporter Load. Bandwidth throttling settings provide you with a high degree of control over LAN or WAN bandwidth consumption by the backup job. Use the job bandwidth rules to set the limits of the data transfer speed. Now that everything is set, click Finish and Run to complete the job creation and run the job. While the job is running, you can monitor the dashboard for the job's specific events, speed of data transfer, amount of transferred data, and use transporters. When the job is completed, you can click the VM to access detailed information about the job run and the screenshot of the VM booted from the backup. Since the backup was successful, you can recover any files and objects or perform full VM recovery from the backup. As you can see, NAKIVO Backup and Replication offers an extremely intuitive job creation process for Hyper-V VM backup. You can master it in mere minutes. To learn more about NAKIVO Backup and Replication, go to nakivo.com and find out how easy it is to protect all of your virtual, physical, cloud, and SaaS data with this all-in-one solution. If you want to try NAKIVO Backup and Replication in your environment, download the 15-day free trial without feature or capacity limitations. Thanks for watching. See you in the next videos.